I'm trying something a little bit different. I like the OEM Fender look, but I also want to help negate some of the mud packing issues. I'm gonna rephrase that. We're gonna talk about fender risers, high fender on the Africa Twin. Altrider makes a very good kit, makes the front end look like a dirt bike, looks really cool, gets the fender up out of the way. One of the main reasons why people do that is if they're riding in muddy conditions, the mud can pack up in between the tire and the OEM fender, the low fender, and cause the wheel to jam up sometimes. And when that happens, bad things also happen. I need to try and alleviate some of the problems with the mud packing up in the fender without going full high fender, because I actually do like the OEM fender, the look of it, and it does help provide more protection from rocks kicking up into the radiator. I do use radiator guards by Altrider, so I'm not worried about them wiping out my radiators or anything, but I like the OEM fender. I found out about, and I did some research, did some looking into, Rocks, the same company that makes my handlebar risers, makes a front OEM fender riser kit. It uses the stock front fender. It's got these brackets here that allow me to move the front fender about 1.5 inches up. It's not for the purposes of the front of the fender. The problem that happens is the mud packs into the back of the fender, because on the OEM it's actually quite close. It's a very tight tolerance right there. The brackets mount right here, and it moves the entire system up about 1.5 inches. So it's going to give me the clearance that I need. Stick with me. I've read through the instructions. It looks like actually a really simple process. This is actually a very budget-friendly kit. I think it was like $50 or $56, something like that. Much more affordable than the $300 Altrider kit. And it's going to help you out just the same. You're just not going to have that super high fender look, which, if you're not into that, this is your option. Okay, first 5mm Allen. This is 2019 Africa Twin, by the way. First, we have to remove this bolt on each side to release the rear of the fender, the shrouds. Okay. Once we get that bolt off, we're going to take this shroud off to expose that's either your speedo or your ABS wire and your, in this case, left side brake line. When you're popping this shroud off, there's 3 or 4 clip places that you need to undo, and just get yourself a flat blade screwdriver and kind of gently pry on it. It'll pop straight off. Now when you're doing that, be careful that you're not pinching your brake line or this cable here. Bad no-no. Okay. Right side's off. We're going to remove the bolt that's holding the brake line to the fender carefully. And according to the instructions, you're reusing that bolt. It is an 8mm, by the way. 8mm socket head. For really small stuff like this, I have a set of 1/4 inch drive stuff. Comes in pretty handy. That's a 3-way connector for the brake lines on the front of this thing. This clip here, this is your odometer. That's just put in there with the rubber grommet. That's going to need to come loose. Now that this is all loose, your fender is loose. Now we're going to undo these 2 bolts on either side, and the fender will come straight off. 5mm Allen head. Now that the front fender is off, we're going to be installing the 2 fender risers. These are the riser brackets. These brackets each have a rounded taper here and here. That rounded taper should face the front of the motorcycle. I don't coat all the threads when I'm using Loctite. I just put a little dab, and the act of threading the bolt in is what's going to spread that Loctite. Make sure you're not pinching your ABS/odometer wire, your sensor wire, when you're putting this on. That would be bad. Okay, that side's on. I didn't see any torque specs on these, so I'm just getting them snug. Blue Loctite's going to help. There are also 2 rear riser brackets, also side specific. So on these, the flat side faces the front of the bike, so this will be the left side. That bracket right there is where this mounts to. All the hardware is included with this kit. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to assume we're using blue Loctite on this as well. So it's getting hot in this garage, I tell you what. I live in Oregon, and right now we are in a heat wave, and it is a record-setting heat wave. Sorry if my voice is louder. I'm going to try and get that fixed in post-production. Record-setting heat wave right now. All-time record-setting since they started keeping records. It was in my backyard. It was 115 degrees last night. I live in Oregon, Milwaukee, Oregon. 115 degrees. And the closest major town, Portland, I think they recorded like a 110, and that's record also. And it's supposed to be 115 today in Portland, so who knows what it's supposed to be here in my backyard. Having a center stand or a bike hoist will make this process way easier. Both of those risers are on. Since the fender's moving up, this grommet and this barrel grommet are no longer in the right spot, and this wire would be too tight. So you need to slide this and this up about 1 inch. To make that easier, I'm using some Dawn dish soap diluted in a bit of water. And this is very important that you be careful with this cable, this wire. This is what basically, this is where your instrument panel gets its information from when you're moving. Your front ABS, everything works off of that cable. So that's your sensor wire. So just be very careful when you're doing this. Ideally, I feel like a spray bottle with simple green would be easier, I think. It's about 1 inch there. Like I said, just take your time. Okay, now we're going to secure the fender back in its position. Oops, that's got to go under. Okay. That's going to go there. Main mounts are done, and you can already see a height difference there. It is higher, and again though, where we're concentrating, the difference we want the most is back here. You can see there's a significant gap difference there. It's going to keep that mud from getting all stuck up in there and jamming the wheel shut if you're in a super muddy area. When you're putting all this back on, make sure your instrument wire goes back through the little ports. Make sure your brake line goes through where it's supposed to go through as well. And once you're all on, before you really cinch it down, just make sure that your instrument cable is still running through nice and easy and it's not crimped anywhere. It's like big kid Legos. Rocks also includes this. Reason why this is so tight is because I'm supposed to attach this around the brake line and attach everything to the fender with this. That is the new setup. Here's the sensor wire. It is now zip tied around the grommet around it. It still has plenty of play. It's plenty loose. Probably move that up in that a little bit. Swing that around. There we go. Straighter. And this three-way coupler, so you have to have the three-way coupler obviously since it's dual disc on the front. That three-way coupler is now, instead of bolted through here up into where this is, this clamp provided by Rocks now clamps around that, and I still have nothing is tight. There's plenty of play. If you ride in muddy areas and you need a higher fender solution because mud keeps packing up inside of the fender and in the back there and locking up your wheel, or potentially locking up your wheel, and you don't want to spend $300 plus for like an Altrider or a CamelADV kit, which are cool. They give it that dirt bike look, the Paris-Dakar rally bike look in the front. Pretty cool, but those are expensive kits. And if you're on a budget, Rocks Speed Effects front fender riser, 2016 through 2019 Honda Africa Twin. I think it was like $56. I'll look it up. I'll link it down below. Stay hairy.